do me a favor and don't press the skip ahead button. Just listen to this little promo because it might be something that's interesting to you. My friend Jeff, who is sponsoring these episodes right now, is one of the hosts for the War for the Tower podcast, which is an actual play RPG podcast set in the universe of the Dark Tower. However, he's gotten a little bit tired of telling all of you guys how great that show is and trying to promo that one, and he's part of a podcast network called the Sinister Parent Company Network. So maybe you'd be interested in some of the other shows he's involved with. Good Idea is an improvised think tank that takes half-baked ideas and turns them into genius. Everything is Awesome is an in-depth interview show about independent art, good writing, and social issues. Something Wonderful Right Away is a hilarious long-form improv show, and Shattered Worlds RPG is a space opera actual play that uses the RPG system that Jeff created. Check out all these shows and more on the Sinister Parent Company Twitter feed at SinParentCo. And of course, you can find War for the Tower at warforthetower.com. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Unspoiled, covering Doctor Who, Season 6, Episode 1, The Impossible Astronaut. In this episode, I was really kind of feeling this episode right up until the light flicks on inside the astronaut's helmet, and we see that there's a baby in there. And then I could not stop laughing. And that's where it ended, and that just doesn't feel wise to me. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Jamie. It's not a baby.
I mean, it's like kind of a baby.
It's a little kid.
It's ridiculous. It's hilarious. It is much, much funnier than the skull that was our banner image for a minute there.
Hey, who turned out the lights?
Oh my god. It's so... it's like they can't even see over the fucking collar of the helmet where it attaches to the because they're too small. It's just, it is such a strange moment because it's meant to be very tense and very, it just, that undermined it so completely. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to recover from it. So that's where I'm coming from right now.
Okay. More importantly,
I'm still thinking about it. Oh god, that's going to be a screenshot for this episode. Hold on, let me get that now.
There are so many better screenshots from this episode.
Are there?
I mean, not funnier, but better. More beautiful.
I have the sound on. Damn it, go away. I mean, it's just that this is what, when it's the last part of the episode, it feels like it overshadows everything. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is just, when I think of this episode from here on out, that's what I'm going to think of.
That's weird, considering there is one of the scariest aliens it's ever been on anything.
Yeah, even so. Because honestly, the aliens remind me of the Gentlemen.
A little bit. They're like a mixture of the Gentlemen and the Dementors.
Yeah. And so when I think of the aliens from this episode, I won't even be thinking of the aliens. I will be thinking of the Gentlemen. And that is not to denigrate the design of these aliens or anything, but they just so remind me of that, especially with their little suits and all. that is the image that I have in my head with them.
I find them to be very unsettling looking.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really appreciate the design because their heads are the shape of the classic alien head shape.
Mm-hmm. The grays.
But, yes. And then, like, no mouth, where the gray aliens always have, like, a tiny little mouth sometimes. But their eyes aren't these, like, over large eyeballs. It's just this big space with small eyeballs. I don't know. I just think it's really clever. But also just really, really hard to look at.
They kind of made me think of the Ood if the little tentacles were taken off and the eyes were removed.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Because the Ood has like this sort of, like, imagining their faces being molded out of clay, they have the same sort of pinched forward look to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the socket, like, there's eyes, but they're so far back in the sockets that it just looks like holes. And you could just take the Ood's eyes out and probably get a similar effect. And they just look very similar to me in that regard. But because of it being, like, those parts being removed, that makes them much more skull-like.
Yeah. And there's something just really disturbing about the way their skin lays, like they're mummies almost. And it's like flesh wrapped around their head in a way. I don't know. I find them very disturbing. And so, of course, I bought a Funko Pop of them.
I'm shocked. This is my shocked face.
They don't make a lot of Funkos of the alien creatures. And I kind of like the ones that they've chosen. I wish they would do an Ood. They haven't done that yet.
It's crazy to me that they don't take advantage of that to make some really wild pops. Like, I would think that would be exactly what they zeroed in on when they design. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But what do I know?
I don't know.
In merchandising.
It's curious, the characters or the specific aspects of the different doctors. There's lots of different doctors, obviously. But like we've talked before, they haven't made all the companions. And then when they did make some of the companions, it was a weird choice of outfit, including River. The outfit they have River in is a weird choice. If I were a companion and they didn't make a pop of me, I'd be real salty about it. There's not a Martha and there's not a Donna yet.
There's not a Donna. All right.
There's not a Donna.
These pops are all worthless. And Funko is worthless. So
I'm just wondering if I want to think, like, does the Doctor Who ones, do they not sell enough? But in my experience of being unable to find a lot of them, I would think that they do.
I mean, maybe that's the thing, is that it creates a feeling of scarcity. It's like when you were telling me about Starbucks limited edition cups, and people go fucking bonkers for them.
Oh, I'm sure that's a lot of it, but they just haven't made, like, I mean, there is pretty much all of the Game of Thrones characters have a pop now.
That's true.
There's lots and lots of Marvel. There's lots of Star Wars. And even, like, more fringe things like Lord of the Rings, when they finally started making those, they eventually did make all the Hobbits. Because at first they hadn't. They've made almost all of the major characters from Lord of the Rings. So why with Doctor Who have they left off a couple of the companions? There's only one version of the Ninth Doctor. Just one. Which I did order on eBay recently. And I got it. I'd never even seen this before, but I saw it and I was like, I have to buy that. It's 10, but wearing 9's clothes because it's right after he regenerated.
Oh. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, and I was like,
it's a weird choice.
I have to buy that.
I mean,
yeah, but that's what I mean. You're gonna do that?
Yeah,
but you're not gonna make Donna? It's weird.
I just like we should have like a little bit of an ongoing like game with a reward of some kind at the end, where every episode I ask, "Do you think Jamie has this pop?" And everybody has to weigh in. And guess whether you have it or not. And then whoever got the most right at the end of the season will get that pop, maybe. Or a similar pop.
Well, it depends, because some of them are very expensive now.
Okay, well, they will get a photo of that pop in their inbox on Facebook Messenger. Congratulations.
I'd be willing to play, because my Doctor Who pop collection has grown quite a bit since we started doing this show, because it's like re-sparked my like, oh, I never went around and got those pops. Now I need them, because it's, reminding me how much I love the show beyond Rose and 10. And so it's grown. That they used to be my only two for Doctor Who.
Man.
Now I have a lot.
I can't believe they don't have Donna though. Like, that's really gross.
It is. I mean, I would even take Donna in her wedding gown, and that isn't the version of Donna that I want, but I would take it.
That's just what I was thinking. Was
Donna.
I bet if they made her, they'd make her in her wedding gown.
Yeah. There are pops of like multiple different Daleks.
Who cares? Oh,
there are 2 different TARDIS. I have a TARDIS.
TARDISes?
I can't. TARDISes? I don't know.
TARDI?
There's two of the TARDIS, and one of them, the door's open. I mean, that's cute, but there's still not a Donna or a Martha.
Because if you can't actually make it bigger on the inside, don't have the doors open. Tip from me to them.
Right. The TARDIS that I have, the doors don't open.
I just don't see the point of doing that if you're not going to have something insane inside. Just don't do it. That's the mystery. We don't get to open the door. Other people have to do it.
Mm-hmm. So if anybody from Funko is listening,
get your shit together.
Is a Donna Noble pop. We need a Martha Jones pop.
What should Donna be wearing if not her dress?
Well, she ran around in jeans and like little camisole shirts, so that would be cute, and like a cardigan.
Scarves. Yeah.
I would like a Mickey Smith pop. Think that would be cute.
Okay. Other than Donna, I can't think. I'm sure that there's somebody that I'll remember later. Oh, I want the woman in red with the parasol. That's
not quite popular enough, but that would be cute.
Or the reptile queen.
Yes.
That one would
work. I think they should definitely make one of the Solarians, and I think that they should make a Jadoon, the rhinoceros creature.
Oh my god. Yeah, those are pretty good.
Yeah. So really, Funko should steal me away from Starbucks and pay me a lot of money to give them ideas for pops to make.
Yeah, I support this. I need somebody on the inside at Funko. Gimme.
You already have someone on the inside at Starbucks, so let me just feed your other obsession.
All right, so this episode, things start off really confused because the last time that we were, again, the end of the last episode, we start off with the rejoining the Doctor right out of their wedding. And Amy is in her wedding gown still. Rory's in his tux. And they're getting into the TARDIS right away.
Well, that's not entirely true. They were on their honeymoon in the last episode.
In the Christmas episode. Yeah. I kind of am not counting that in terms of like continuity. But I guess that is how that works.
It does count.
So, yeah. All right. So they were on their honeymoon. I didn't expect for them to be living regular life on Earth yet. So when we like wind up in their apartment later and they're just like unpacking groceries, I was very surprised. And she's sort of like, and I'm skipping, but I will bounce back to what the Doctor's up to. But she's kind of like reading through history books and tracking down little Easter eggs that it seems the Doctor has left for them to wave at them. And it's a weird thing that she's doing this now because we saw them together recently. So there's this feeling of them having lost touch somehow that I wasn't ready for. Meanwhile, back in 17 something?
It's the 17th century. It's Charles II is the king. Whenever Charles II was the king.
Well, the Doctor is being painted as a shirtless angel type. And
I think he's naked.
Yeah, he's like, I guess he is just straight up naked and there's like a banner wrapped around him. He's got like it's the crown he's wearing is very Zeus from, or not Zeus, King Trident from Little Mermaid-esque. And he has a trident, so it does look to me. Oh, you know what? I'm seeing that the sketched in portion, he looks to be standing on rocks and there's a couple of like naked women sitting on either side of him, and there is what looks like the sea in the background. So maybe he was gonna be standing on like the seashore or something.
Okay.
What?
I didn't notice any of that because I didn't pause it.
Well, that's the advantage I have. Hold on, let me send you this and you can see what I'm saying. But it looks almost like there's a what's that seashell girl that she's like
Venus
naked?
de Milo?
That's the one. I kept trying to say Venus of Willendorf, and I'm like, that is a distinctly different Venus. There's kind of a look there of that. What day is it? My screenshots are crowded. Okay, here we go. Found it. I tried to screenshot it and sent it to you, and my computer is just like, pick one of these 70 screenshots, figure it out. But
oh, so you do this on other shows, is what you're saying.
I'm cheating on you. No, I mean, I do this for everything. I screenshot tons of stuff all the time. A lot of it is purely to send to Rashawn and talk shit. But, you know, there's also productive stuff like this. So this, is it the king himself that comes in and wants to know where the Doctor is? And the Doctor is hiding under this, is it the Queen's skirts?
Well, my notes say the painter Matilda. So maybe she was, I don't know anything about Charles II. Maybe she was one of his mistresses who also painted.
I have no idea, but if anybody in the audience knows, let us know.
There are cherubs in the sky. Okay. See, I never looked down at the bottom part of it. I always noticed the cherubs and just didn't even notice this was a trident. I just thought it was basically a full-grown cherub. So he's naked. He's got the sash. Yeah, it looks like there's I don't know what this gold is supposed to be, but sure. This is so exciting for people who can't see it right now.
Yeah, it's not good radio. Sorry, everyone. But yeah, we cut from him being discovered under her skirts to Rory and Amy's place. And I should mention, too, that they have, Jamie and I were just talking about kitchens before we started recording. They have a lovely little kitchen. It's small, but it is new and just very... Their whole house is such that it makes me jealous. I have house envy lately. I think that's part of why I've been getting so into Animal Crossing, is that there's a sense of getting a sort of vicarious experience of getting to choose things for myself for the house that I would not get,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it looks like the two of them are doing pretty well. And she's reading about how the Doctor was thrown into a tower, and then the tower, that people saw a globe floating away from it.
Not just a tower, the Tower of London.
Right.
which was the prison.
I thought that was inferred. He gets thrown into the tower.
She says the Tower of London.
Okay. Well,
on order of the king without trial. But he escaped by magical sphere.
That seems right. I mean,
except the TARDIS is square, or rectangle, but sure.
Well, you know,
I guess somebody could have rescued him. Yeah.
I could also see somebody with bad eyesight not being able to tell a square from a circle. You know, if you've got enough of those like faint rings around things because it's all blurry, everything looks a little circular. That's no problem. And then we see him and he's like, I don't think I have the subtitles turned on here because he's like in crawling out of a tunnel. And
it's trying to help prisoners of war escape in World War II.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. And I guess he winds up in like the main guy's office by accident when they were supposed to wind up outside the walls. So shit goes very wrong.
Yeah.
And then we see him showing up in an Abbott and Costello routine.
Laurel and Hardy.
Laurel and Hardy?
Yeah.
Okay. I do not know who they are. Hold on.
Laurel and Hardy?
Yeah, I'm looking them up.
It's not so far off from Abbott and Costello, all things considered.
Laurel and Hardy, comedy duo. Yeah, they look Abbott and Costello. Yeah, they look real similar.
Yeah.
Okay, the next Google search was Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy. And apparently you can get a DVD set of both of them together on the one DVD, both of their like specials.
Okay.
Interesting. But yeah, so he's in there. He's on the film. And apparently they are aware he's there, and it's just kind of a fun thing to put on in the background because they watch it a lot.
Did we learn that?
She says something about, are we watching this again? Oh. And we see the doctor, and I couldn't tell if this was...
They don't seem to pay any attention to the fact that he's on the screen.
No, but she says, are we watching this again? So I kind of thought this was like just yet another thing he's decided to be cheeky about, and they've like watched it a few times. But I could be misinterpreting that, and this is like the first time that he's shown up on there. Even though
that was the indication that I got, because he's off doing his thing, changing history. So like, she says something about, I don't know what she says, about the doctor like trying to get their attention.
Right.
And Rory looks down at the book to look something up to see if she's right, and that's when he shows up on screen.
Okay. Well, this is when she gets the invitation. And this leads to one of the first episodes that I can think of that's meant to be set in the United States.
It's not the first one set in the United States. It's the second one that they've ever actually gone to the United States to film.
What was the first one? Was that one that I've seen?
Yeah, it was Martha and the Doctor in New York with the pig creatures and the Daleks.
Oh, God, I forgot about that. That was a weird one.
And then in season 1, the Dalek episode where you first meet the Daleks was supposed to take place in Utah, in a bunker in Utah.
Okay, right.
Strangely, this actually also takes place in Utah and was filmed there. Actually filmed there.
Oh, okay. Well, it's lovely. It's really interesting because, like, right from the start, the filming style is really different this episode.
They got this season. So the last season was the first season with Matt Smith, and it was the last season where BBC America really did a push with advertising and trying to get people excited about Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. Everything blew up with season 5. Doctor Who became like a household name. it became a thing that wasn't just like something people used to watch 40 years ago. It was something that where merchandise was being made at Hot Topic. They were going to Comic-Con. Like, it was a big deal. So they ended up with more money.
Gotcha.
And I feel like the film quality, the scope they were able to go with is much larger now because they have a bigger budget.
Yeah, it's like the colors look richer. Obviously being able to travel like this is something that they don't do often, and I would imagine that's due to budgetary constraints.
Yeah, because even that one in New York didn't entirely get filmed in New York.
Right.
This almost entirely was filmed in the United States. There's a little bit of it that was filmed in Cardiff, but most of this was done in the US.
And then there's like a lot more shaky cam later on. And this show has felt very much like it's, kind of a traditional dollies and whatnot. But there's several moments later where it's clearly a handheld, and it's really odd. I don't dislike it, but I noticed it. It felt
I don't think
very
I noticed
different.
it.
I'm trying to think the exact moment because it's definitely like a moment when they're all talking together outside. I think it's near the lake when the astronaut first shows up. And I was just like, what is going on with this? So I think it works. It's just, it's something that I definitely noticed. And it turns out they're all standing on the side of the road after getting dropped off by the bus. The doctor is here, sitting on the hood of his like 1950s, like road. What do they call it?
I don't know. It's like a cherry red station wagon, though.
Road boat. Is that the one?
Road boat. I don't know.
I think so. But yeah, it's a station wagon. And River shows up and shoots his Stetson off his head, which is very good. River looking amazing as ever. Mm-hmm. I think she might have got a little work done between seasons.
Really?
And she looks great. Yeah. I mean, she always looks great, but something about her. She's just a tiny bit fresh. Just a little bit. And I'm like, I see you, girl. Might got a little pull here and there. And that is no shade at all, because if I could afford plastic surgery, I 100,000% would have gotten it by now already. And that friggin' hip holster is really working for her. Honey, yes.
Yes, her clothes fit her perfectly.
Mm-hmm. So then we go to the obligatory diner with lots of neon and milkshakes with straws in them and whatnot. That is, Americana. I love Rory with his little glass bottle of Coke with a straw in it. Precious. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to know what it is that he has summoned there for. He has summoned them all there for. And the doctor says he's been running faster than he ever has, and he's been running his whole life. And it's time for me to stop. And he has a really sad look on his face when he says this. And I definitely was like, it sounds like he's gonna kill himself. Why is he acting like this? And sure enough, that sort of is what's happening. He is walking into his own death and knows it, apparently. He doesn't seem surprised.
Yeah.
And you can see River seems to sort of sense something about this as well. Amy, it's harder to tell because Amy doesn't tell herself the truth a lot of the time. So when her reaction is more like she seems to initially have a bit of a knee-jerk, oh, I don't like this sort of moment, but then immediately discount it and go, okay, we're here, so what are we going to do? And not pay attention to the, sinking feeling, Whereas River's the one that's like, oh, I heard what just happened here, now I have my eye on you.
Right.
So the doctor tells them that they're going to have a picnic And then a trip to space 1969. And we get I don't know, it's a montage of like everything that went down with Amy and as a kid and the doctor showing up. It's not entirely clear to me.
Are you talking about the intro before the credits?
Yeah. Is this something that's going to be in every episode? Why are they doing this?
They did it. Another thing with the show getting so popular, especially here, I think they did it for new audiences. People who are maybe just joining this season because they've been hearing about Doctor Who for the last couple of years more and more.
Mm-hmm.
It is super annoying.
I mean, I don't really feel
that
like
intro
it helps anybody who hasn't seen that season to understand what was going on.
It doesn't. It only sort of gives you an introduction of, I'm Amy Pond. This guy was my imaginary friend, but it turns out he was real.
Right.
I honestly skip that every time.
It just was like, because I thought for a second we were like going back in time, that this was part of the show. I didn't realize it was just the intro. And I don't
know why they left it on.
You mean in the Amazon version?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it also was in the Netflix version. It is, I think it's not on my DVDs.
Oh, okay.
But it was on, when I started rewatching season 6, it was still on Amazon. And so I'd have to like fast forward through that every time.
Yeah, I'm glad that you don't like it, because I just didn't really know what to think. And I was like, this feels really strange. It's not the show has never felt the need to recap like this before. I
also feel like it's kind of disrespectful to the previous, like, almost 50 years of Doctor Who to act like all we need to know is about Amy's history with the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that's important. There's no information in this little data dump that says this is the 11th version of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's been around forever. Just, he's a Time Lord. He travels in a blue box through time and space. I'm Amy Pond. No mention of Rory.
That's kind of what I mean when I say, like, I don't see this helping people. There's no information that feels particularly crucial in that series of flashbacks.
No, and if it was just on this episode, I would be like, okay, fine. But the fact that they put it on every single episode at the beginning of every episode.
Yeah, that's weird.
For the whole season was super annoying. And that's fine when you've got commercials coming up and you know the credits are coming, you're going to go, do whatever. But it's annoying when it's on streaming or on a DVD where we're like, I know what show I'm watching.
Right, yeah, exactly. Huh.
You don't need to catch me up.
Well, we get that. Then we get the regular credits. And then we get everybody sitting on the shore of a lake, toasting one another as they drink wine. And Amy asking the doctor, since when does he drink wine? He says he's 1103 years old. I must have had it at some point. And he takes a sip and then spits it out and says it's horrid.
He also didn't like wine in The Lodger. The episode with James Corden.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that he had it in that episode. Yeah. This place that they are having this picnic, it's one of those things where I respect that beauty is subjective and that everybody's going to find different things beautiful, but this place looks so bleak to me. Like, coming here for a picnic is just so, it would just never occur to me to have a picnic somewhere that looks like this.
This is Lake Powell, which is on the Utah and Arizona border.
Okay.
So it's a man-made lake. as all lakes in Arizona are, except for Lake Havasu, which is part of the Colorado River.
Okay.
This is what all lakes in Arizona look like. And as somebody who lived in Arizona for 12 years of my life, the last time I went camping was on a lake, and it was like that. There were no trees. There was no shade. It was horrible.
I mean, I need me some trees, guys.
Same.
Like, when the camera pulls back and we see the overall view, it is beautiful. It's like as a whole. But sitting in that one spot to have your picnic, it's just, like you said, there's no shade, there's no protection from the elements, and it's just straight up sand. All the way back to the road. It's not like, oh, this is sand, and because it's the beach part, and then we go back to the grass part. No. It's all sand, because that's all there is. And
because it's the fucking desert.
And it's like,
ugh.
Because of the way that it might be because it's man-made, there's something very quarry-like about the look of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, it's just water that it doesn't... There's a look to lakes that are natural, where there's like a wearing away of the landscape that happens because of erosion and everything. And this doesn't... It looks a little weird. And it's a subtle thing that it's like, I can't quite put my finger on it, but all the lakes around here in Texas are man-made. And it's a similar thing. Like, the instant you look at them, they're man-made. It just looks not quite right.
It doesn't look like it just popped up there naturally, and so it's odd-shaped or, goes in weird places, or...
There's formations coming out of nowhere, yeah.
Yeah.
So it just looks kind of like being in a industrial area instead of like a naturally beautiful area. It's just so... Yeah, I was looking at this and I was like, man, this looks like the fucking surface of the moon already,
Well, the sunset, and that is something that is really spectacular to see if you live in the desert. The sunsets are always amazing. So I'm glad that they kept shooting so that they could give some of that, because that was beautiful. Like, during his funeral, it's just fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
But it's gorgeous because of the sky. It's not gorgeous because of the landscape.
Right. And here comes my obligatory remark about how great Amy's hair looks, because
her hair looks stunning in this episode.
Glossy, and there's like a couple moments where she's sort of leaning to the side, and you can see how like thick and heavy it is because of the way it hangs. And that's just like the kind of look that I've always wanted, is that bead curtain weight. And I don't really ever get that. It's something that you either have or you don't, and you can't make it happen.
You really can't.
So she sees somebody standing on the ridge, and my immediate thought was that looks like an alien because his head looks weirdly big. But then I was like, well, who knows? There's a million things that this could be. And I shelved that thought. And as she's looking at him, she says, "Who's that?" But Rory says, "Who? What are you talking about?" And she looks back at him and seems to immediately forget that she even said anything. And just is like, "What?" And he says, "You asked who's that?" And she says, "No, I didn't." And it's real weird. Right after that, a truck pulls up. And a dude that we have never seen before, as far as I know, gets out. And the doctor stands up and lifts his hand to him in such a way as to indicate that something the doctor is fucking dreading is about to happen. He does not look happy to see this guy. He's like grateful that he came and needs him there for whatever reason. But he is not happy. And the guy does not join them at their little picnic. He stands by his truck and waits for the rest of the things to happen. So then what we see is this astronaut standing knee deep in the lake. Just standing there in full regalia. Is that the word I want?
It is an Apollo spacesuit.
But what do you call it when you say like full
regalia?
Is it regalia?
Think so.
Okay. The doctor tells all of them, no matter what happens, none of you can interfere. And then goes up to the astronaut, looking very trepidatious and very sad, and says, "Hello, it's okay. I know it's you." And they lift the visor on their helmet. We have the camera pull pretty far back again, so we're seeing the two of them face to face on the edge of the lake. And then out of nowhere, the astronaut shoots him in the chest with what looks like a laser. It's surrounds him with like this sort of green light.
Yeah.
They do it several times, and he collapses and begins to glow with the regeneration light. And he's in the middle of the regeneration. And he looks over at all of them and says, "I'm sorry." And as the light starts to sort of take over in his face as well, and he looks like he's like dematerializing, the astronaut fires again. And there's a sort of like pulse of energy that comes out when he goes down this time. That feels very different than other times that he has been hurt. It's clear that this was a real death. This was different. And everybody comes running up to him. And they all begin freaking out because they know he was about to regenerate. And if he got interrupted in the middle of that, that's likely all there is to it. And Amy is not willing to believe that. River does what she does, which is fires on the astronaut that is walking away. Also, honorable mention to River's hair this episode.
Yeah, her hair looks amazing, as usual.
As usual. It's even better. Like, she's looked good in other seasons, but there is, like, barely any frizz going on. Her curls are super defined.
It's a little bit shorter, too.
Maybe
just
that's
slightly. So I think it gives it... There's less weight, so the curls are bouncier.
So, yeah, she fires a bunch of times and eventually runs out of ammo, but does not seem to hit her target even once. And they eventually disappear. I guess they just, like, walk into the water.
Well, we don't know what is in there.
Right. So then this old man comes up, and Amy is like saying to herself that this isn't possible, that it has to be like a copy of him, like this can't even be the doctor, trying to come up with every kind of excuse for how we can work it out that he's not actually dead, that this is a fake out or a mistake. And this old man comes up to them and tells them that that most certainly is the doctor. And he most certainly is dead. And he said you'd need this. And hands them a big, like, gallon canister of gasoline. Because his body is super valuable. And unless they destroy it, the, baddies out there would definitely come here and try and tear the earth apart to find any remnants that they could.
Yeah, River says something about even one cell from a Time Lord can destroy everything.
Yeah. So
they give him a Viking funeral.
Yeah, and Amy is like curled over his body, sobbing. And again, this is just a weird thing because, like, I feel like everybody's acting their asses off and doing really well. But it's hard to get invested when the show is named after him, and I know that he's gonna be back. Like, it's not like it didn't affect me at all but it was really more of a feeling of impatience, because I am certain that like the next scene he's going to show up, and sure enough, that's exactly what happens. Granted, it's a past him that doesn't know what's happening yet, but nevertheless, so it's a weird thing we're doing here that I don't know if I'm just heartless that this didn't totally like work for me, or if it's sort of been this way for other people who watch this episode as well. Because like I said, the actors are doing a great job. They're getting across being totally devastated and believing that this is real,
Yeah.
But
well, what it does, like, I agree, and I never thought when I watched this, when it aired, like, oh my god, the show's over then? This is the first episode of season 6. Like, obviously.
Right.
The Doctor is not going to stay dead.
Mm-hmm.
Which very quickly is revealed that, yeah, here's this past version of him. But the overlying question now is, well, what does this mean?
Right.
So, but he does die later.
Right.
And for him, yeah, it's 200 years later. But it's still a death.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that is possibly one of the mysteries of this season. Maybe only the next 2 episodes, but potentially the season of, okay, so who killed him and why?
Right. So this is when this old man, he reveals his name. What is it, like Cantrell?
Canton Everett Delaware III.
And he reveals that he knows all of their names. He shows River the invitation that he got to this location, which has a number 4 on the back of it. And she has number 2, I think.
Yes.
Rory and Amy got number 3. So they are still looking for number 1. And this dude tells them, I won't be seeing you again, but you will certainly be seeing me.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that real weird. I'm interested in what that means. But
well, you get that answer.
We do?
In this episode. Yes.
When?
Mark Sheppard.
What?
The character that goes with them to Florida. The FBI, the former FBI agent who the president calls in to explain these phone calls.
When did we find out that was the same guy?
Because the Doctor says you're Canton Everett Delaware III. They go specifically looking for him.
I don't know how I missed that.
I don't know how you missed it either.
Oh.
That's who Mark Sheppard's character is the younger version of this old man.
Oh. All right. Well.
And fun fact, the old man is actually played by Mark Sheppard's dad.
Aw, that's precious.
Yeah.
I will say...
You know who Mark Sheppard is, right?
Oh, yeah. And I was about to say, I got excited when I saw that Mark Sheppard was in this because I do really enjoy him. He's super weird to see him doing an American accent, though.
Well, is he American, though?
I don't think so.
Because on Supernatural, he's got an accent.
Everything I've ever seen him in, he's had an accent.
Does he have an accent in Battlestar
British
Galactica?
Actor he's listed in.
He's British? Okay.
Because
I've just seen him in so many things that it's hard to remember. Like, I don't know. I don't know if he's American or British because he's been in so many things and I've seen him perform with both accents.
Yeah,
so
I've never seen him in anything where he does an American. He's always played British.
On Firefly, didn't his character have an American accent? That one episode of Firefly he did?
Girl, I don't remember.
Oh. I'm pretty sure
that was literally like 7 years ago for me at this point that I watched those.
He's so good on Battlestar Galactica and Supernatural, though. So good.
He's just really good at that shady energy,
which he doesn't have in this, which is kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, he is typecast a lot at this point, I think, because he's so good at that. And so to see him not doing that, that was another thing. He is not British, and he is not shady. So maybe that's why I didn't catch on to them talking about who he is, because I was so distracted by the fact that he was like playing somebody very different than usual. But I will say that he does a pretty good job with the American accent, because like some British actors, they have weird little tics that they don't realize Americans don't do with the like little pronunciations of things here and there, and they'll still do them. And that might happen eventually, and later on. But at the moment, I was actually pretty impressed with the way he pulled this off. Accents
when we were covering,
hard,
they are. When we were covering The Punisher, I at the beginning was like, I'm really impressed with how well Ben Barnes is doing with his American accent. It's not slipping ever. But then he had a scene where he was shouting, and I was like, oh, his British comes out when he shouts.
Yeah.
Like the dropping or the softening of the R's and that ah sort of sound that they put at the end of certain words, he couldn't mask it when he was shouting.
Yeah.
But otherwise he did a really good job, really convincing. But yeah, usually you can hear it in certain words, and you can see it, like their mouths don't know how to form the word right. It's really interesting.
Yeah, one of my favorite, I don't remember what show it was, but it was clearly a British actor playing an American, and he says garage because they say garage.
Yeah.
So he puts the emphasis on the wrong syllable. So he's got like the pronunciation of each individual syllable basically correct, but the emphasis is so off that you are immediately like, oh, buddy,
Yeah.
Speaking
of Battlestar Galactica, I found that Jamie Bamber struggled a lot with certain words.
Yeah, it's and there's also like parts that sometimes it's like the script's fault. And I think it was actually a Doctor Who episode where they like have British intelligence talking to somebody who's supposed to be from American intelligence, and the American agent says, "I'll phone you," which Americans do not say. So there's things like that as well that I'm like, you guys, come on, somebody. But anyway, okay. So they go back to the diner. They're trying to figure out what the hell the deal is with these invitations. Amy, meanwhile, has pretty much decided that if the doctor is dead, there is no point to talking anymore. She's like about to just give up.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch because you can see Rory just being like wanting to. It's like a combination, I think, of Rory is also upset. It's not like, the doctor meant something to him as well. That Amy being this devastated hurts him to watch. And the idea that this would cause her to sort of give up, I think, is a bit disturbing to him. But they get interrupted by him spotting the envelope that's sitting on the table with a bottle of soda, and whomever was sitting there is no longer there. And it turns out that he is just in the bathroom. And out walks the doctor, and they are all real flipped out to see him again. And River winds up slapping him across the face.
Well, because they think that he's fucking with them.
It's honestly kind of a weird thing to think that he's fucking with them. Because there is
that's why she says
about his expression here that feels like, hey, I gotcha,
Right. And the first thing that River says to him is, this is cold, even for you. This is cold. Like, it's just really mean.
I just don't know why they would think that he would do that.
I don't know if in that moment, because of their shock, that their brains are going to anything other than like, what the fuck are you doing to us? Why are you...
Guys, he time travels. That is what he does. All the time. Why would you...
But he's not supposed to... He's not supposed to interfere with his own timeline, though.
But he always has, which Amy does say. So well, I'm going to assume that it's you fucking with us and not, the time travel thing that you are known for doing all the time. It is a weird assumption to make. It just doesn't it doesn't make a lot of sense that is what they would believe first.
Well, and Amy doesn't think that. She thinks that he's just recovered.
Well, how does that make more sense? You burned his body.
It doesn't. That's why she's like, she can't understand how he can be okay.
I don't understand.
And Rory just seems to be like shocked by all of it. So I guess they do have like 3 different reactions where Rory is just like, what the fuck? And Amy's like, oh my god, it's a miracle, you lived. And River's like, how the fucking dare you do this to us? And he's like, what are you guys talking about? I didn't know you were here.
Just, there's 3 people and nobody immediately is like, oh, this is a past version of him?
Well, River figures it out pretty shortly after slapping him. So I think she just kind of wanted to slap him.
I mean, that's fair.
For walking them to watch his death. Even though this doctor doesn't know he does that to them.
Right.
She's still like, fuck you for doing this to me. Because he's like, is this for something I haven't done yet?
Right.
And she's like, yeah.
But yeah, it was a weird thing. Because I just as soon as you see him, I'm assuming, he has an invitation. Clearly. That's what's going on. He was invited here by the other version of himself. It's just so immediately obvious that all of them leaping to this being some sort of sick joke. I'm just like, why do you think that? So anyway, eventually it gets straightened out that this is a younger version of him, that he doesn't know River the way the other version of him did. And this leads to an interesting monologue later on.
Well, because this version is 909. So this version's 1 year older than the one that Amy met.
Right.
And the one that was on the beach was 100 or 1100 something. Mm-hmm. So that one has a lot more experience with River.
Yeah, and I really did like her monologue about how they're traveling in different directions. So the more she knows about him, the less he knows her.
Yeah.
And they won't. She decides that he is not supposed to know.
Well, nobody should know when they die.
Which, I guess. So my issue here is the doctor isn't anyone. And he is he basically names himself as an exception to many, many rules that he claims everyone else has to follow, except he doesn't because whatever. And I really wanted them to tell him what's going on here. I just feel like I don't buy that it would necessarily be a disaster to do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But there's the question of then what will he do if he knows that?
I mean, what will he do if he doesn't know that? It's either way you're taking risks. Everything is, Well,
what will he do if he doesn't know that? You know that he'll live for another 200 years. But if he does know it, he might put himself in a situation where he dies earlier.
I guess
and that affects other things.
Or he saves himself and doesn't die 200 years from now. I'm just always of the opinion that telling somebody what the fuck is going on is the best thing to do. You know, like, especially when you're dealing with a guy like this. I just tell him. He's going to suss it out eventually. He's going to be so mad that you guys didn't tell him. And I don't see, and like, there is no starkly outlined consequence of telling him that I am that worried about. I feel like it's the possibilities and the potential of telling him the truth points to like many more options for changing things than leaving him in the dark. But that's just me. And eventually, one of these aliens tells Amy to tell him. But then she forgets to tell him because she forgets the alien. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether they're telling her to tell him this because they are bad and they want her to do a bad thing, or if that is what she should do and she just isn't because she can't remember, or what. But I am right now hashtag Team Alien. So we will see how that goes.
These aliens don't seem like they're good guys.
They don't. But, you know, you can't judge a book by its creepy cover.
He killed that woman in the White House bathroom.
Maybe she was real bad. Maybe she's a bad person.
Okay.
I mean, you know, she could be... If you work in the White House, I mean, let's be honest. Probably not doing great. Just by default. So, she won't tell him and says spoilers. He has a look on his face that he seems to sense that something big is happening, but he obviously cannot get a straight answer out of anybody about it. He asks Rory if everybody is cross with him for some reason. Later on, they all get together, like, sort of below decks, for lack of a better word, to talk about him. And he gets real angry that nobody's here to be impressed with him being clever, doing amazing stuff. It's really interesting to see him being unsure of the way everyone else is treating him.
Yeah.
I kind of enjoyed that because he's always the one that knows things and doesn't tell other people. And for everyone else to know a thing and not be telling him is refreshing. I rather liked it.
I do like his frustration when he's hanging upside down, saying that nobody is there to watch him be clever. Like, and I like that River's like, God, you just want to slap him sometimes.
Agreed, ma'am. Yes. And this is when they decide that they are not going to tell him, and Amy goes back up to the deck. He's like questioning everybody about what's happening, and she has to promise on fish fingers and custard.
Well, because River's like, just trust me with this. Don't ask questions, just trust me. And he's like, the fuck would I trust you for?
Yeah.
Like, I know you killed someone. You going to tell me who?
She is so hurt because he doesn't know her yet.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for him to take her word for anything.
Right. And she understands that. She can't help but be hurt by it, but she understands. And then Amy is like, okay, fine. Do you trust me?
Yeah, so she makes this promise. And again, I feel like this is going to be bad. I feel like he's going to find out the truth, and then he's going to feel like she broke her promise and not want to trust her. I don't know. We'll see. So eventually we wind up in the Oval Office. It's 1969, and he is talking to what's-his-face about this weird phone call that he has been getting.
Okay, so we learned that Canton was fired from the FBI, and Nixon basically summons him because he needs somebody to look into something that is no longer in the FBI, but has the contacts of the FBI.
Right.
So it's interesting. I think I can't remember exactly what Canton says of why he's no longer in the FBI, but Oh, I don't know if he says why, but I like that Nixon says to him, "You were my second choice," and Canton says, "Well, you were my second choice too."
Yeah, it was a pretty good line. Yeah, and it turns out that he's getting this really weird phone call, and he says he gets the call wherever he is.
Yeah.
Which I had to remind myself that there's no cell phones, and that's why that is so weird for him. Because otherwise I was just like...
We all get calls wherever we are.
What else is new? So he is... The phone call that he's getting, this guy asks man or woman, and he says neither. Which is just, of course, you just assume that he means something androgynous. But what it turns out he means is like a child.
Yeah.
But when somebody says man or woman, you don't say neither when you mean a child. What a weird response.
I had forgotten that it was the kid, and I was thinking it was going to be some crazy alien voice.
Exactly. Like that's clearly what they want you to think.
Yeah.
But I just don't like responses like that are meant to make you think a thing, that are phrased in such a way that no human being would ever say that in response to the question they were asked, you know? Nobody is going to say neither about when it's a child.
Right. You'd say, no, it's a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's a little girl. This isn't a I am no man instance here.
Right. And then him and, what's his face? Canton begin to, like, Canton says that he thinks it's a little girl. Nixon says he thinks it's a boy. And Nixon is, well, what is it exactly? The recording that we hear is like, I'm scared. They are, like, they say something about how, like, they're coming. Right?
Yeah, something like that.
I'm trying to find the
exactly
exact
what the kid
spot.
says.
Oh, they say, I'm afraid of the spaceman. That's right. That's right. And he says, where are you phoning from? And as he's saying all of this, the doctor has stepped out of the TARDIS into the office and is listening to the conversation and taking notes and trying to remain unnoticed, which does not actually work out for him. But he says, where are you phoning from? And the child says, Jefferson Adams Hamilton. And he thinks that's the name of the child, which I found really funny because, like, come on. But he says, Jefferson, listen to me. And then the call hangs up. And Canton is saying, this is something that I'm sure the Bureau could handle, sir. And Nixon responds, how do I know the Bureau isn't involved? And as he says that, he turns around and spots the doctor. And the doctor essentially winds up taking control of the situation eventually, despite the fact that he breached security. Really, because of the fact that he breached security. Eventually, It comes down to, like, this guy got through, and that guy failed to keep him out. Which one of them seems the most competent? I'll go with the guy who got in through security. Which, all right, I guess if we're going to do sort of D&D rules. Sure. And meanwhile, on the TARDIS, it, like, things are kind of, they're watching the scene and trying to figure out what they should be doing. And he says, River, have you got my scanner working yet? What was it that she was trying to do with the scanner?
She said that the scanner doesn't work when they're cloaked.
Oh, okay. And that's when she says, oh, I really hate him. I forgot about that she keeps saying that she hates him. River, make her blue again. What a weird sentence. And there it is. There the TARDIS is in the Oval Office, and everybody is like, what the fuck is going on? And rather than increase their hold on the doctor, they all stop and stare and let go of him. And the next moment when they look up, he is seated behind the desk with his feet propped up on it. Disrespectful, sir.
Well, it is Nixon's desk.
And like I said, he winds up being able to take control of things. He needs 5 minutes. This dude keeps saying this man is clear and present danger. And they're just like, dude, we really want to know what this weird man has to tell us, though. Later on, Amy has to go to the bathroom. And one of the guys tries to be like, you can't leave this room. And Nixon's like, shut the fuck up and take her to the fucking bathroom.
Are you going to skip over the code names?
Oh,
that the doctor
I forgot
gives them?
About that.
The legs,
the
nose, and Mrs. Robinson.
It's pretty good, honestly. Mrs. Robinson in particular. And that's again, she says, I hate you yet again, right there.
And he says, no, you don't.
No, you don't. And we have this moment with the alien showing up in the doorway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a kind of an odd, like, it's standing in the doorway. Amy looks at him. It's the fucking giant hands on him, too. Those are pretty creepy. Mm-hmm. And she says that she remembers. And then immediately Rory steps in front of her and says, what do you remember? And she says, I don't know. And it's clear once he has interrupted her train of thought that she has lost it again and doesn't remember having just seen him standing there. But she's like kind of upset. And this is when she goes to the bathroom. There's a woman in there. And this is honestly a really well done scene. There's a woman in the bathroom. And at first I thought the creature was invisible to everybody but Amy, which might still be true because it is standing right in the middle of the door and nobody else seems to have noticed it. And one would really think they would. But she sees it in this, when Amy points it out, she turns and is like, what are you talking about? Get away from what, hun? And then immediately forgets and kind of says it's a really similar sequence of lines, but it's not identical.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked that a lot, that it's like emphasized we're not replaying moments in time here. This is a woman who has a pattern of the way that she thinks of things. And so her mind goes to the same place the second time. It's just that she doesn't use the exact same words to say it as she used the first time.
So what do you think is happening?
I have no idea. It's like they have these like short-term memory wipes. I just don't I do not know what's happening. And I really like the way this was done. Like, it reminds me of me editing a podcast and somebody says something in it and I think of a funny joke and then I hear myself say a version of the joke that I'm thinking of. You know?
I have also done that.
Yeah. And it's just like, you have these things that you will think every time. That's the, frame of reference you have. So she says a similar thing about how, is that a Star Trek mask? Or is that a mask? Is that from Star Trek? And both times she thinks, is it Mark? Mark, is that you? And then but it's just worded slightly differently. And eventually, when it's clear, Amy keeps telling her, stay back, stay back. She turns to Amy when Amy tells her to do that, forgets. And then eventually, we've done it so many times, the lights begin to flash. The alien is lifting its hand very slowly in this like incredibly menacing. It feels almost like he's about to do the, what is the name of the karate move in Karate Kid where you put your arms up and...
Oh, the swan or something?
It's like he's about to do that for a second. But then he just reaches out, uses one of his giant weird fingers to zap her in the chest And his weird mouth sort of opens a little bit more. It's not even like it's just more of a hole than it was.
And it's not even a hole because there's still skin that sucks in with it.
I hate it.
It's horrible. It's really horrible.
And then she just pops like a balloon.
Yeah.
And all of her fabric of her clothes are like scraps that are floating around. And it's really brutal. And Amy, in a pretty good moment of like thinking things through, takes a photo of the alien, which only works if you go back and look through your photos, granted, but it's better than nothing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The thing to do really would be to take video and then text that video to somebody so that they immediately see it.
Well, keep in mind when this was.
True.
So this was 2011. The phone that she's using now, I know that iPhones were out by then. iPhones came out in like 2007, I think.
She definitely has a flip phone, though.
But she has, well, it's like slides up.
Oh, one of those. Right.
And she takes a picture, but I don't know if at that point, with that type of phone, if you could text a picture at that time. I don't know if we'd gotten there yet.
Interesting. So she asks the creature, why did you have to kill her? And he says, Joy. Her name was Joy. Your name is Amelia. And you will tell the doctor. As he's saying this, I really was like surprised at my reaction to this thing's ability to speak. Because I assumed it either could not or would not. But the fact that it can and is apparently just very sparing with its words and has this weird, creepy voice and knows this woman's name and knows Amy's name. It's really weird. I do not know what to think of these creatures like knowing anything about the people and doing what they do anyway, you know, because you can tell yourself that this is sort of an impersonal thing when it's other villains. Like, it's like, oh, this person was just in their way. They don't even know who that, you know, like there's the whole thing in the reptile lady episode where the doctor wants her to have at least known the name of the girl that she killed.
Mm-hmm.
And he does know. And it doesn't seem to like matter at all. And it's weird that he really points out that he knows. And he tells Amy, you must tell him what he doesn't know and what he must never know. She asks how he knows about that. And she just says, the alien just says, tell him. And she goes running out of the bathroom and, of course, immediately forgets her instructions. So, yeah, it's, oh, I forgot that we're in 1969, so this guy doesn't understand what she's fucking talking about when she says that that's her phone.
Yeah.
I forgot, because he's like, your phone? And I was like, why is he being so weird about this? That's right. But yeah, she says, I have to tell the doctor. He says, tell him what? And she stops and says, I'm sorry, I don't know why I just said that. And then they just go back to the office and she clearly has like forgotten everything. But yeah, pretty good scene. Pretty freaky. What?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. So she comes back into the Oval Office and the doctor is looking at a map and says the only place in the United States that this could all be coming from. And as they're in the middle of basically congratulating the doctor on this, the phone rings again. Nixon picks it up. And it's the girl's voice. It's here. The spaceman's here. It's going to get me. It's going to eat me. And the doctor is like, we are going out right now. Canton, by no means follow me into this box and close the door behind you. And Canton does precisely that because he is predictable, apparently.
Well, it's just reverse psychology.
Do you think that's all it was?
Yes.
Okay.
You skimmed over that when they do, say they'll listen to him, he says that he needs a SWAT team ready to mobilize, street-level maps covering all of Florida, a pot of coffee, 12 jammy Dodgers, and a fez.
I forgot he asked for the fez. Yeah, but he doesn't have it this episode, does he? I guess they didn't get it for him.
They didn't get him the jammy Dodgers either.
What?
Or the coffee.
What jags? Ungrateful.
Or a SWAT team. Basically, all they got him was maps.
Well, to be fair, he says there's no time for a SWAT team as he's running out the door. So he forfeited the SWAT team.
Yes.
But I assume that he still wanted the jammy Dodgers and the fez.
Well, he can have my jammy Dodgers. I still have 3 packages.
I remember I told you that I thought Owen might like them because he likes Fig Newtons.
Yeah.
I was 100% right. He tore through all of my packages within 2 days. He ate all of them.
Maybe I should send you mine.
If you feel like it, he will be very pleased because I'm not ordering them again. But yeah, the poor Rory gets saddled with the task of getting Canton familiarized with what the fuck is going on, because all he can do at first is just stand there and talk about how it's bigger on the inside. And it's kind of cute that he is continuing to just stand there while all these other things are happening around him. He's just very excited. So let's see. Oh, right. Rory asking, why is it always my turn? And Amy says, because you're the newest, and kisses him on the cheek and then runs away. And he puts a hand on the guy's shoulder in one of the most awkward gestures I've ever seen. It's like he's about to take the guy into custody is the kind of vibe that I got there. There's something vaguely policey about it.
I love that Rory is wearing shorts through this whole thing.
Is he? I didn't even notice that.
Yes. You'll see it when he climbs down the tunnel. I noticed it when they first got to Utah, when they get off of the little bus. Mm-hmm. But you don't see him from the waist down very much. You kind of forget. And then you see him climbing down the tunnel and he's wearing little shorts. I'm like, I don't know why that's so cute, because I guess I just don't think of people on this show as wearing little cargo shorts.
I mean, it makes, he went to a hot deserty, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And Amy's wearing pedal pushers.
Is she?
Yeah, they're not full on.
She's also
jeans.
wearing a long sleeve shirt.
I know. I was kind of trying to figure that out because it's a long sleeve plaid shirt. And I'm like, are
the
they
whole
trying to
previous
make her look American? And that was the best they could come up with of what an American looks like is that they wear plaid?
I don't know. I just think it's funny that the entire previous season, she had on the shortest shorts and the shortest skirts that they could possibly find for her to wear. Then they have her going to the desert, and they put her in full-length pants, pretty much, and a long-sleeve shirt.
Yeah, I have to think that it's they were trying to do something that felt a little bit more classic in style, because that's the whole vibe they're going for with the diner as well and everything, you know? But it is. I mean, you could have gone for a classic style and have it be short sleeved. That is possible. You can make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, she looks great. The shirt fits her really well, and it's fine. I just think it's funny that Rory's in a t-shirt and shorts.
Yeah,
And she's wearing long sleeves. River's got a button-up shirt and a denim jacket and jeans.
What? I mean, I get it. They're trying to make her look like a cowboy, but again.
Right. So I was trying to figure out were they filming this when it got cold? Because it can get really cold in the desert at night, for sure. But Rory's wearing a t-shirt and shorts. So what's happening here?
Maybe we're supposed to think that Rory knows less about the desert than River and Amy, and they came more prepared for the cold evenings that he didn't know were going to be cold evenings.
Maybe. Or maybe Rory was like, we're going on a picnic. I'm wearing shorts.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. I really like this moment when the doctor figures out that the names the child was giving on the phone were street names. He looks over at River and says, "You've got that face again." And she says, "What face?" And he says "he's so hot when he's clever" face. And she says, "This is the face I always have." And he says, "Yes, it is." Pretty good little bit of business. All right. Oh, right. And I forgot. Poor Canton is so behind because he gets out of the box and says, "We've moved." And I'm like, Canton, sweetie, keep up. Jesus Christ.
Well, it's hard to keep up when you spend the entire ride shocked at how big it is on the inside. With nobody explaining anything to you while you're shocked, because Rory just stood there like, it'll be okay.
Yeah, because the doctor yells at Rory for not having gotten to the part where he explains space travel yet when they get out. And Rory's like, "I was still trying to explain time travel," to which Canton says, "Time travel?" And I'm like, oh, God. They really need to get the basics covered here. So we're in a box that's bigger on the inside that travels through time and space. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
How long have Scotland Yard had this? Oh, sweetie.
That's a really good line, and it's such a throwaway. Like, it's not focused on, but it's a really good line.
Yeah. So they go into the building that it seems the child phoned from, but it looks like it is an abandoned warehouse at first.
Yeah.
And they're just like, how did this child do this at all?
Well, and I think at some point River says the phone is not connected.
Right. And then we get to see all of this like detritus that is alien. There is a weird machine with like this looks sort of like the slab that Amy was on when she was going to get dissected a little bit. But there's like lots of hoses like hanging down towards it, and it's all gooey.
Yeah.
It's real. I don't like it. I don't like anything about it. But then they discover all of this Earth tech in crates that is like for the year cutting edge technology. And it's a weird combination for there to be a bunch of like Earth tech mixed in with alien tech.
And keep in mind, they're in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Mm-hmm. So this is where all the NASA stuff is.
Right.
So whoever has been here has also been stealing stuff from NASA.
Right. And Amy, rightfully, is like, if this is alien tech and they're able to get to Earth, what the fuck do they want this shit for when they clearly have more advanced technology than us? And
good question.
The doctor just says, maybe because it's cooler. Look how cool this stuff is. And she says, a cool
also not
alien?
Wrong.
And he's like, well, what would you call me? And I'm like, doctor, don't do this. Don't open yourself up to this. He's got the little helmet on, but he's put the visor up. It's pretty adorable how much he thinks he's cool and how not cool he is. So they begin wandering around looking for this little girl that they believe is still here. River is separated with Amy and says, I know what you're thinking. And Amy says, no, you don't. And she says, you're thinking, if we can find the spaceman in 1969 and neutralize it, then it won't be around in 2011 to kill the doctor. And Amy's like, oh, yeah, fine. Okay, that was what I was thinking. Lucky guess. River says it doesn't work like that. I don't like. I tend to agree. I assume.
Yeah, because they could they could. She says like time can be rewritten, but that doesn't guarantee that the doctor will be saved. So they could tell him but it still might happen. Like, some things are inevitable. And the doctor says all the time, or he used to, that there are fixed moments in time. They don't know if this is a fixed moment in time, but it very well could be.
Right. Yeah, and they could potentially create a paradox, she mentions.
Right. And if you think about, like, what the doctor did with the astronauts on Mars, where he saved those 3, but he specifically saved the one woman because she was so important. And he felt like she deserved a chance, even though it was supposed to be a fixed moment in time, to influence her family in the same way for greater things or whatever. She deserved to live, and she couldn't handle that and died that day anyway. Her death was a fixed moment in time. And him bringing her back to Earth did not change that.
Right.
So if the doctor being killed on that beach is a fixed moment in time, they could do all kinds of things to try to change it, and it might not. Or it might not be a fixed moment in time, and they can change it.
Right.
That's why she's saying it's complicated. And she knows this because she's a time traveler.
Yeah, she's all over the fucking place. I'm sure she's tried to prevent shit herself more than once. Because, like, you can't resist that. Right?
Right.
I would imagine when you first start to figure out time travel, there's no way you are able to not ever try to change a thing that you know is coming. I assume. Maybe I'm just weak.
That's why there's the big question of if you could time travel and go back and kill Hitler as a baby. Would you? Or, to make it more current, kill Trump as a baby. Would you do it? Yeah. Yes, I would. Just gonna say.
Here's my thing.
Throw that baby in the river.
I wouldn't, like, what if I just stole that baby and gave it to somebody else?
I don't know if that, maybe some people are just who they are.
I feel like this is a real nature versus nurture situation. If those people lost their baby, they would just have another one and name it a different name, and it would be raised in the same situation and become another Trump with a different name.
So then you killed the baby and the parents.
Wow. Jamie's really fucking... All right. Bloodthirsty over here.
I really hate him.
Destroy the family tree, root and stem.
Root and stem! That's right. Who said that? That was...
I believe
Tywin, right?
Tywin Lannister, yes.
Tywin did not have the wrong idea.
The rains shall weep over their hall.
Yep.
So...
Am I a Slytherin? What just happened?
I think a little bit. It's fine. I'm not mad at you about it. I'm not even sure you're wrong. I'm just saying that I'm surprised. But I think that's the part of this Hufflepuff that comes out when people are threatened.
That's right.
You know? You don't want to fuck with a Hufflepuff. Angry badgers.
You don't want to fuck with badgers. They are vicious. They're just so cute before they bite.
Okay, so River follows this like weird hose to a manhole and follows it down, even though that is the worst idea I have ever heard in my entire life.
She's very brave.
He says, "Shout if you get in trouble," and she says, "Don't worry, I'm quite a screamer." Now there's a spoiler for you. River? Ma'am?
That's pretty racy for this show.
What are you saying? Damn. I'm blushing.
Doctor gets all flustered because Kitten's like, what's going on? And Doctor's like, nothing, we're just friends.
Oh, man. So yeah, she goes down there. There's like a big fucking hole ripped in the brick wall, more hoses, and eventually her flashlight falls on 3 of these aliens that are Nosferatu, like, sitting there with their arms crossed at the wrists. And one of them leaps up and has, like, that suit on. I don't think all of them are wearing suits, but I could be wrong about that. You don't really see their neck because their hands are crossed over it. So I thought when I saw the one in the suit that it was the same one as from Washington, D.C., but I'm realizing now that might not actually be true. It might just be that they all wear these suits and I just didn't see it on the other ones. In which case, these guys are like the Men in Black, but like the Men in Black not from the movies, but the Men in Black that we hear talked about if you listen to paranormal shows or watch paranormal TV, where there are like apparently dudes around who seem to be themselves aliens and pose as human beings wearing suits that are identical. You know what I'm talking about?
No.
So, okay, I'm trying to think of exactly where to start with this, because this is just all I could think about once I saw that there was another one in a suit. The Men in Black are kind of meant to be these like the theory that I see the most frequently is that they are actually themselves either aliens or time traveling human beings, and they pop up around sightings of supernatural stuff, usually alien stuff. And that is why it's sort of suspected that they could be human beings and they're like working to cover up things, and that is the time travel aspect, and that they like, or that they are aliens who are doing their best to mimic human beings and are not super good at it, because most of the stories about the Men in Black, they act kind of strange. They don't react to things the same way, like sentences. They have this strange way of talking, and there is an overall sense of them like pretending to have to breathe, pretending to have to walk. Like people will turn around and it will just be right on their porch when a second ago they were in the parking lot or the driveway, and it's like they don't actually have to move like human beings do.
Who has seen these people?
Listen, if you Google stories about the Men in Black, you will find all kinds. And it's the sort of thing that's like spawned other sorts of stories where it's like the ones wearing these suits are not the only ones that are around anymore. So do you remember the stories in the woods for Unspooked last year or the year before?
No.
There was this guy guys, you really, if you're not patrons, you should become patrons and go listen to Unspooked, because some of them are really good. And the ones from 2018, there was a series of stories set in the woods that were really good. But this guy was he was sharing like different stories that either he had experienced as a park ranger and somebody who worked in like emergency rescue services, or experiences that his friends had. And one of the ones that made the biggest impression on me, it was 2 stories. One of them was a guy who was camping with the rest of the crew, and they were out on some sort of like, mapping mission or something. And they were pretty far out, and he got up to pee, and he saw somebody standing on the other side of this little stream with their back to him, not moving. And it was very late, and the guy was all alone, and everybody was accounted for from his own group. So he was like, what is this person doing out here? They must be in trouble. Are they lost? And he goes up to them. And he's like yelling out like, hey, are you okay? And they do not respond. And he's continuing to be like, hey, can you hear me? Are you all right? Is everything okay? And finally walks up to them and like taps them on the shoulder, and they turned around, and they did not have a face. And he freaked out and like ran back to the what do you call it, campsite, and apparently like never told anybody until he told his friend. And there was another dude who had a similar thing where he was like standing on a ladder and he was repainting one of the park signs, and this guy comes up to him standing down next to the base of the ladder and is like, hey, I'm trying to find such and such road. Can you help me? And the guy's like, oh yeah, it's down that way about half a mile. And then he realizes that there's no car around. And he's wondering how this dude even got here because they're not really anywhere that you can walk from. And the guy's like, well, can you show me where? And he's like, it's straight down the road. You won't miss it. There's a huge sign. And the guy kept on sort of pushing him. And when he looked down, finally, like, and took a proper look, he said that he thought the guy didn't have a face. And a second later, it looked like he did. And he was like, wow, what the fuck was I thinking? That was a weird moment. And the guy sort of hung around and he sped up his work and like kind of jogged to his truck eventually and sped off, really feeling like this guy was watching him and waiting for him, and looked in the rearview mirror and was like, I swear to God, he didn't have a face. It was like, I saw what was really there for a second. Then I saw something that he wanted me to see. But when I looked in the rearview mirror, it was like I saw the thing that was actually there again. And I took off, and I swear to God, I got to like the edge of the parking lot and took a left, and he was already at the edge of the parking lot when he had been behind me a second ago. And that's like one of 30 stories minimum that I have heard about this kind of thing.
People with no faces.
No faces. Behaving like they're human when they're not, like having voices that don't modulate right, like pretending to inhale and exhale, but there's not actually like a sound of breathing. It's just that you see their shoulders moving like they're trying to fake a look of breathing. It's weird, weird stuff. And it's very entertaining. It's very good stories. They're fun. So that's what I'm thinking of with this guy. The little suits, you know? Maybe they're people. Maybe they're like future humans that have grown real weird and deformed over the course of changes of evolution and history. What do I know?
Maybe. Look, if there's time travel and these creatures are not sharing that with us, it's just rude. Don't pretend to be one of us and not share your tech.
I mean, I think that they don't want to interfere. Like, we're a science project that they're watching develop.
Well, their science project is a mess right now. Somebody spilled something and it infected everything else, so they should fix it.
I mean, yeah. Agreed. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it or think about it or do anything about it.
No, we need to talk about how River forgets them as soon as she climbs up the tunnel.
Right. She forgets to tell them. And then later on, Rory like looks in there and sees, after they like break through this door, and sees them all, and then immediately forgets and tells them all clear. Honestly, I think that's the freakiest part of these aliens, more so than what they look like, is the fact that they can make people immediately forget. And that is just really rude. Like, that's unfair. That's dirty pool, old man. So as soon as she gets scared and runs up, she turns around and goes right back down. And the doctor sends Rory, asks Rory, hey, would you mind doing such and such? And he's like, what if I do mind? And the doctor says, well, then I'll appreciate it all the more. Poor Rory. So they go down there. She has her monologue about feeling kind of sick, first of all, because we know that she's upset over what she saw, but also doesn't understand why she's upset. Her body had a reaction that does not match with what is going on right now. And she begins talking about the doctor and that when we met him earlier, he knew all about me, and now he doesn't know anything. Think about that. She says something about, imagine the doctor coming into a little girl's life and affecting everything and knowing everything about her. And Rory's like, I don't really need to imagine that. And I'm like, yeah, River, maybe don't bring that up right now. Just saying.
But then she says that she fears that one day she'll meet the doctor and he will have no idea who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly how we met River.
Right. Yeah, it's a kind of nightmare.
And she says she believes that that will kill her, which she means metaphorically, but it actually did.
It does, yep.
Yeah.
That is how she dies. And it reminds me sort of like the experience of watching somebody that you love go through Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
You know, and just they slowly begin to lose their own history and they don't know who you are anymore. And they still mean everything to you. And you know all of the things that you've been through together. And when you walk into a room, they have no frame of reference for you at all. And that is just, like I said, a literal nightmare. That's hell.
Yeah. It's the worst thing I think that could happen to human beings is losing who you are or living in your past and not knowing your family. Mm-hmm. It's horrible. Have you seen Benjamin Button?
Yes. That it?
That's what I thought of when she was talking about how they're moving in opposite directions.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I forgot about how that, like, love story worked out.
Yeah, and, like, it's not exactly the same because of time travel, but I did really like that. I liked Benjamin Button. I thought that was a really good movie. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I really did, and I thought it was really interesting to watch her grow older and him grow younger, and they meet in the middle, and then they go the other way. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Sad in its own way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So this is really sad, but then it's immediately sort of taken over by the fact that she gets through this door. And there are, I was going to say there's lots of aliens in there, but not immediately. When they first get through, it's just like this ship. And the look of it reminded me of something that we have seen before, I thought.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if this is...
It's similar. I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it's similar to the one that was in The Lodger again.
That's what I thought. Okay. I thought it looked like that, but then I was like, is that just me? Because they have like these coffin-shaped...
Yeah.
Oh.
And like the round sort of bulb thing, right? Or is that not... Yeah, River. Is it River that touches that? Or is that the doctor upstairs?
I'm not remembering. Hold on, I'll see once we get there. Oh, right, because they look through there, and Rory winds up looking through another doorway, and sees all of the aliens and freaks out, and then turns around and immediately says there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
I'm realizing that these things look like Nosferatu in the way that they lay with their hands over there, and then they also have these coffin-shaped things. They're very, like, vampire-y. She touches the ball.
It's okay.
Yep.
So, and I feel like the one that was in The Lodger, that also had, like, a big round sort of ball thing there.
That's what she touches well, that's what people were touching and that electrocuted them, I think. Right?
It destroyed them. Yeah,
right.
Like the machine was trying to find a pilot. Because its pilot died.
Right. So she's in the middle of figuring this out. She says that this plumbing has been here for centuries under the city. And she's saying
the tunnels.
This to Rory as his back is to this door that he just walked out of that we know there's a ton of aliens in, but he has forgotten. And these weird flashing lights are behind him that eventually he turns around, gets this expression on his face. She looks up, gets a similar expression of terror and horror on her face, and screams Rory. But we don't see what that is yet. We cut to Mr. Canton talking about how he had to leave the FBI because he wanted to get married.
That's right.
Which
is weird because I'm pretty sure there are FBI agents that are married.
I'm wondering if he's gay.
Oh, maybe. It just occurred to me too. Yeah, maybe.
Because she says, "Is that a crime?" And he says, "Yes." So I feel like that might be what he means.
I know it might seem to the audience like I'm playing dumb, but I honestly don't remember if that gets explained further.
Okay. So I just hate this like layer of membrane or whatever it is that's like wrapped around all of these tubes. I hate it. It just looks so gross.
I'm trying to think of what it reminds me of because I feel like I've seen that in something else.
I do not know. It kind of looks like seaweed a little bit, but you know.
No, I mean like some sort of alien movie or television show or something. Oh, maybe it's Battlestar Galactica again.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I think that is actually what it is. The inside of one of the raiders. Remember?
No. But it's been a long time since I saw that.
Spoilers for Battlestar Galactica. When Starbuck goes inside of one of the raiders.
Okay.
It's a lot of slimy sort of tubes like that. Like almost like wiring that's like covered in organic material.
Gross.
And that's when they realize that the raiders are also alive in a way that they weren't thinking.
Oh, God, right. Okay, so they get interrupted by the little girl saying, "Help me." And they all look up. And by all, I mean the doctor and Canton and Amy. And as she's running towards the doctor, she doubles over and clutches at her abdomen. And she has just said that there's something that she needs to tell him, but that things keep getting in the way. And we assume that is what the alien told her to tell him, and that she has like forgotten what it is that she's supposed to say. But then when she finally gets up to him, she says that she has something really important to tell him. And it is that she is pregnant. And she seems to be in pain, the way that she's clutching at her stomach.
Yeah.
When they come around the corner, Canton is already unconscious. Like he got whacked on the back of the head. And she tells him that she's pregnant, and he stops dead and really does not seem to know what to say to that. There's this moment of like me going, is she about to tell him that it is his baby? What is happening? Why is this so like I felt like she meant something saying this to him that I wasn't getting. Is it just the fact that she's pregnant, or is there something further to that she knows about already?
I can't say.
Jamie's like, So there, just after she says that, somebody walks in and very forebodingly and slowly lifts a hand and points at the doctor and then lifts their visor, and it's a tiny little child. I guess working some sort of Iron Man-esque suit.
She's on little stilts in there to move the legs.
And she says, "Help me." And Amy has grabbed Canton's gun, gets up with the gun. The doctor yells, "What are you doing?" She says, "Saving your life." Appears to pull the trigger, I think. And then cut to credits. And we have no idea what happened just then.
Yep. So I guess Amy would go back in time and
kill Hitler.
Kill Hitler as well.
She would definitely kill baby Hitler right in the face. I mean, again, I'm not mad at that. I don't know if it's the right or wrong thing to do. I don't really have... It's just the sort of thing I'm like, well, I mean, I guess try it. Can things end up worse than they were? Maybe. But probably not. But yeah, what a weird spot to cut on. I was so disoriented by the fact that the fucking credits start rolling right then.
Yeah.
It was just a weird place to end the episode. And I'm not like, I don't even think it's a bad place. I'm not mad about it. It's just so startling when it just begins. All of a sudden there's names across the screen and I'm still sitting there like, what? There was a child in there. Is that supposed to be Amy's baby from the future? Like,
what?
I don't know.
Yeah, she just killed her baby.
Is that why she's clutching at her stomach? Because she just shot her baby and it's dead inside of her womb now because of the gunshot wound?
Why would that happen?
I don't know, Jamie. Nothing makes sense.
Future baby, if anything.
It's a good album name, actually.
I just want to check and see if these aired the same night. They did not. This is the first time that there's been a two-parter as the opening of a season. Most often it happens that the finale tends to be a two-parter. But this is the first time that it's been the season premiere.
That never occurred to me, but yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
So I wanted to see, I couldn't remember if they aired the same night, but they did not. They were a week apart.
Huh. I didn't really, but that is a hell of a way to start a season.
Mm-hmm.
I forget about that because the way that we cover this, a lot of times, like what's in what season, it's only based on the frame of reference of which Doctor we're with. And since he's lasted a couple seasons now, it's not, So I actually kind of forgot that this was like the premiere of the season because I just did. All right. So sue me.
I'm looking really quick to see what else Mark Shepard's dad has been in. He's been in a lot.
Has he?
Yes, a lot.
I was going to be like guessing that he was, just came in to do them a favor this episode. I didn't think that he would be like an actor. Okay.
He's got 187 credits.
Oh.
He has been acting, let me go all the way back and just see, since 1961.
Wow.
It's his first TV credit.
Well, good for him.
Yeah. I did read that this is not the first time that he and Mark have played
father and son.
This, no, it was, they portrayed father and son, and as in this episode, older and younger versions of the same character.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking father and son in this episode, but that was not what was happening there at all.
The filming locations were Valley of the Gods in Utah, Lake Powell in the Utah-Arizona border, and Eddie's Diner was the diner, but that's in Cardiff Bay. So the diner was not in the U.S., but the other stuff was.
Okay. Interesting. Well.
And also, when the Doctor asks for a SWAT team, the first SWAT team had only been established the year before in 1968 in Los Angeles, and it's possible that the agents might not have even known what the Doctor was talking about.
Oh. Interesting.
And that Joy asks if the alien is wearing a Star Trek mask. Mm-hmm. Star Trek was canceled that same year on June 3rd, 1969.
Tragic.
I came back.
Yeah, it was fine.
And it was the sort of push for contacting the network and asking for the show to come back. The fan response was orchestrated by a woman, so.
Yeah, and the whole show was pushed through by Lucille Ball, who was a visionary.
Originally, right?
Yeah. because they didn't even want to make it. And she was the one who chimed in and was like, okay, you guys are step back and let somebody who fucking knows about things make the decisions for a second.
Yeah, like, I don't know a ton about Star Trek, but what I do know is that when men decided that it was for them, that's when everything got toxic, because it was actually more popular with women when it was originally on the air.
Right.
And all of the conventions that started were originally mostly patronized by women. What's the word I'm looking for? It was mostly women that went to those conventions.
I think patronized is the right word.
Yeah. So, women have always been into sci-fi. Doesn't belong to dudes. Shut your stupid mouths. Thank you for my TED Talk.
I like that you didn't say thank you for coming. You just said thank you for my TED Talk.
Thank you for giving me the floor.
And she also produced Mission Impossible. VT Dubs.
Lucille Ball?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I did not know that.
She's a little bit my hero. Anyway.
Well, we have one review.
Oh, yay! Tell me.
It is great show to listen to. 5 stars by Peethy, P-T-H-E-E from the United States. Great show to listen to. Can't wait for the 6th series to be covered. My favorite. But I look forward to a new perspective that Natasha and Jamie always give. Hosts with great chemistry throughout all the seasons of Doctor Who.
Yay!
Yay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Hugely appreciated. How many reviews do we have now? Do you know the number?
I can find out very quickly if you have other things you want to.
I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Well, the main thing that I'll mention is that those of you who are not yet patrons, you may want to become patrons, because Miles and I just wrapped up on coverage of Breaking Dawn, and we will be starting Mistborn next week. So
wait, did you do the movie?
No. Next week. By the time this comes out, it will be next week.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And if you are interested in listening to our coverage of that, you will have to be a $5 or up patron. So you can go to patreon.com/unspoiled to become a patron. And in doing so, will get us closer toward the goal of me and Rashawn covering A Song of Ice and Fire. And last time I checked, we were at 92%, but, you know, she gasped so much more than I expected.
I didn't realize it had broken 90.
Well, I was going to say that there is sort of a addendum to that, because the first of the month is always when a bunch of people's cards get declined. And so probably it has dropped again. Let me check. Nope, 91%. We're still pretty good.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Come on. I wonder how many people that actually means to get it to 100.
I'm looking at my, I think, I don't see the information that I need to tell. But yeah, if y'all are interested in the Song of Ice and Fire coverage, you're going to want to do that. And that fundraising effort will be over by the time we finish covering season 3 of Westworld. Rashawn is going to be the spoiled one again. She's watching the season as it airs, which it is airing now. And I will be...
It just finished.
Did it?
Yeah, I think the finale was Sunday.
Oh my god, I didn't realize it was over already. I need to get on my rewatch. Shit. But yeah, so we will cover that season, probably starting in a couple weeks. And then once that is over, well, we will decide what to do based on where we are with the fundraiser. If we have reached our goal, we will be covering it. But
well, Westworld is 10 episodes, right?
Yes. I believe, because like HBO can kind of be weird and suddenly decide not to do as many. I mean,
right.
You know, Song of Ice and Fire or Game of Thrones, they did that. So I assume it's 10, but they might have thrown a curveball. I don't know. I can't really
look
check
real quick
because I am the unspoiled one.
I'm going to look for you.
Have you been watching this season, the newest one?
I haven't watched it yet. I was kind of waiting for it to be done because the first season I watched after it was over.
Mm-hmm.
the second season I watched week to week, and I know the second season wasn't as good, but I actually didn't enjoy watching it week to week. I enjoyed being able to watch a couple episodes at a time.
Yeah.
And get through it fast.
Yeah.
So I decided, like, we were finishing up some other stuff, so I decided, like, let's just wait till it's done, and we'll watch season 3. So let's see. Season 3 is, 1, 2, 3. It's only 8 episodes. That's why it ended shorter than you thought.
I thought it seemed sooner than I expected. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So yeah, that's going on with Patreon, and patreon.com/unspoiled. And then this weekend, by the time this goes up, it will have been last weekend. But if you are a level $20 patron, Rashawn and I are going to be doing our Unsober episode on Animal Crossing. So
No, but she's not playing it, yeah?
She is not, but she's playing the Pocket Camp iPhone game.
Okay.
So that she has some perspective to bring to the talk. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about. And that's it. Did you check how many?
To answer your earlier question, yes, we have 62.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for that. I am delighted.
Actually, I think those 62 are just iTunes listed on here, but I know there's 2 other ones that came from from Podcatcher, whatever that is. So 64.
Awesome. Yeah, I tend to just count iTunes, whatever it aggregates from with my program. All right. Well, is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No.
All right. Well, thank you everybody very, very much for listening. You can find us facebook.com/unspoiledpod, Twitter at unspoiledshow, Instagram at unspoiledpodcast, unspoiledpodcast.com, and email us at unspoiledpodcast@gmail.com, and find us at patreon.com/unspoiled. Until next week, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.